Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and everything in between. My name is Dustin Cormier. Welcome to another episode of How to Rock Astrology. Today, we are going to be endeavoring to talk about a continuation of our series on Scorpio moon. What we're talking about today in particular, looks like I do not have the picture prepared that I'm supposed to. Story of my life. Thanks for your patience here, folks. In our conversation with the moon and Scorpios of the world, as this is part of our series here, today in particular we're talking about what it's like when you have Scorpio moon and Venus is in the sign of Cancer. There's much to be said here about the Venus being thirsty, and really the moon in a technical regard is sort of thirsty as well, in a way. There's a real craving for soul bonding here, and it's the craving for the external experience of soul bonding. The image of that in the mind of Venus makes one feel like they are never doing that. They're never doing enough of that. And part of the reason is because the moon in Scorpio has never ever known or trusted how to be affectionate with itself, which you're okay with because at least you feel like you're okay with that because you feel like you can work hard and do that ninth house sort of working for a role, trying to establish a role as a person who people can admire for the love that you give. You're probably somebody who gives a lot of love selflessly in a way. And this has the ability to almost be water. But really what it is that you don't give altruistically. You tend to show affection with the hope that someone is going to give you affection back. And partly you deeply are, enamored with the idea of being soul bonded with somebody, but you yourself don't know how to do that because you've never been affectionate with yourself, so you don't know how to show affection to others. So whoever you're with, whatever relationship you're with, you'll feel like you're not enough, and you might even feel like they don't support you in being able to have these soul bonding experiences. But in reality, it's probably because you yourself are thirsty for these soul binding experiences because you spend much of your time working hard at your job, working hard at showing that you have love for somebody without realizing that that love is actually capable of pouring out from inside of you without trying. This is really a real rundown of what is to be expected from this combination. I'm going to kind of have to break down the themes and figures here to help understand why exactly this is. Really, the main big picture to convey here is that in Western astrology, trines are generally considered to be a good thing. In Vedic astrology, I invite you to come down the rabbit hole with me and see if this fits in your experience. In Vedic astrology, it's nice here that Venus is giving the moon an aspect which, Venus is not an enemy to the moon, and Venus is a benefic. So through this, there is an aspect, it's not the strongest aspect, really. And Venus is giving the moon this aspect, which teaches you how to essentially entertain yourself and make yourself feel good through hard work, through working to fulfill some kind of role. Usually this person will fulfill a role in a job, or they'll this is somebody really who can get caught in trying to solidify and stabilize their family, doing things for your sister and your brothers and your mother and your father in ways that you feel obligated to because it's how you've grown to understand how to attain a feeling of love, but it's only a superficial semblance of love because you aren't doing it out of the true water that Venus and the moon are supposed to convey. You're doing it out of a hope that your action of serving is going to give you the experience of being bonded to a soul. But this action is based on the desire for the reward, the desire for the feeling of belonging. And what ends up happening is you feel cheated and slighted often because you do a lot of work for either your family or for your job, for your boss, or for your lover, your potential lover who you've snagged. In men especially, this is a result. This is a combination that can result in you working hard at your job to bring home the bacon, and then when you finally come home with your job, you feel very insecure with your partner because your partner might be somebody who you've attracted. You know, Venus in Cancer in some ways is attracting a partner who has some semblance of neediness in themselves. And what'll end up happening is you'll cater to their neediness without actually getting your own desire for affection met. You are catering to help them get through their emotions, and it's probably a lot of you just accepting that you don't feel like you're a terribly affectionate person in yourself, so you'll just support them when they're in their moods. You'll fulfill the role of being the ninth house protector for your lover, but it will be because you don't trust that you could be loved without doing this. Right? You have never been a person who has affection for yourself because at some level you need others in order to get your self-affection. This is the Venus in Cancer. Cancer is the sign of the Jivatman. It's ourselves. It's our own ego. And Venus being the sign of sharing with others, you know, in the sign of Cancer, Cancer is ourselves, and it's also the people around us. It's the bottom of the chart. It's our foundation. And this is a Venus that craves to the affection of others in order to learn how to be affectionate, which is a self-tripping thing with this combination, because you need to learn to love yourself, to have a place of selfhood that continues in order for you to really serve and love and show affection to others. If another person is loved by you, not because of who you are or from an essential, genuine, authentic place of self-love and self-affection and water of enjoyment, you know, like you might be somebody who doesn't know what kind of movies that they enjoy, what kind of music that you enjoy. You enjoy some kind of music, and it's probably something that you feel is limited in some way because probably all the music that you've ever been introduced to is probably come from someone else. In those rare moments where you do get to have a watery, chillin', blissful moment with another person, they can show you some music. And you'll say, oh, this is the kind of music that you like. Let's listen to the kind of music that you like. And you might have done this with friends and lovers in your early childhood. And as friends and lovers have drifted and disappeared, as they do through time, you find that you didn't actually like that music or that food or those movies or that culture. You did it because you were kind of pushed into doing it because the only way you know how to love is through other people. Venus in Cancer. That is, and this Venus is thirsted by being in Cancer because Venus, if I'm going to give you a bit of theory here, Venus is, how shall I say it? Venus is not an enemy to the moon, but the moon is an enemy to Venus. Here, Venus is starved by the moon by being in Cancer. And it's also in this trine from the moon. And so Venus here is thirsty for something that it can never get enough of. In Vedic astrology, we say that the moon will starve Venus whenever it's in any aspect or when Venus is in Cancer. But when Venus is when Venus is starved by being in a water sign, when any planet is starved by an enemy, it's in the sign of an enemy, and it happens to be a water sign, then we say that planet is thirsted. It can still do what it needs to do. You can still have those moments of affection with people. But because of the fact that you're not doing it out of a sense of genuine love and bonding for that person, because they have nothing to bond to in you, because you are on blank slate of self-affection. You never show your self-affection, and you don't practice enough of what's called santosha. In the Vedic tradition, we have something called the yamas and the niyamas. Yamas are these things we actively do, and niyamas are like controlling, constant fixations, constant mediations for ourselves. The first two, yamas and niyamas, are Saucha and Ahimsa. It relates to the earth chakra of the first chakra. It's purification. The second yamas and niyamas is Santosha, which is actively finding ways of giving affection to yourself, loving yourself, finding the water. It's using the water inside yourself to essentially douse the heat of the Manipura chakra, the fire chakra, the third chakra that's too hot. We all need to use the water of the moon to douse ourselves through the love of the universe and the people all around us, so that we don't need to feel like we need to push through reality all the time in order to have a blissful, stabilizing experience. Ideally, you stabilize yourself with the Svadhisthana chakra, the water chakra, by having a fulfilling life when you get home. That way, when you're at home, you chill. There's the zero out moment where you're with the people that you love, and you don't need to work so hard to be the appropriate person that you need to be in reality at this moment. Then you go to work, and then you work hard, and you're rejuvenated. You've got the water. You can climb the mountain because you've sipped the water, and you've chosen to have affection for yourself to sip the water. That's santosha. It's giving yourself the water that everybody needs in order to do well in their lives and to sustain and douse the fire chakra. The other thing you need to practice is satya, which is being emotionally true to yourself, emotionally real with yourself, and having contemplation moments where you think about how much the actions you've been doing have been giving you a deep sense of fulfillment throughout the whole picture of your life. If you don't practice satya, contemplating the emotional reality of the emotions or lack of emotions that you really have, then you will burn yourself out with your ambitions. And this is something that this person tends to do. Not only because the moon is in Scorpio, which is an ambitious sign ruled by Mars, the Manipura chakra, but also because Venus is in the 9th from the moon. It feels emotionally compelled to act and fulfill a role that is satisfying for the self and for the partner. And you can do this. This image that I'm talking about of you fulfilling a role of giving affection to other people is ultimately part of your nature. It's part of your astral field. But if you aren't first aligned with the true, pure beauty and purpose of your soul, your own soul, if you don't meditate, if you don't practice letting go of the fluctuations of your mind then is always going to have an image that it's not enough, it's not doing enough, and it's going to get bitter about relationships in general and people in general and lovers who gave you such a good feeling that you don't ever want to feel those good feelings again because they were so good, now you miss them. They say you don't know what you're missing, right? That is a bastardized, gross generalization of how this energy is supposed to play out. It's not supposed to happen where you get the good water and then you go walking up the mountain and you get so dried out walking up your personal sun, your personal life path, whatever is signified by the sun in your chart. You walk it and you get so thirsty and you don't have any water. Are you going to say to yourself, I wish I had not drank that water before, because now I have the memory of how good that water is, and now I'm bitter that I don't have water on my path? Does that make sense? No, it doesn't make sense. The water that you drank before you left on your path up the mountain was still water, and it was good for you. That good memory is a positive thing, and you shouldn't be bitter about having had positive experiences with other people. But here, the image of having bonded in any way with anybody, or the image, the deep craving for some kind of shared experience with other people, is going to be very loud through the Venus in the 9th from the moon. Now, I I did a whole video, an hour-long video on the moon in Scorpio. And I recommend that you watch that if you want to get a sense of how the moon in Scorpio is not inclined to delve into affection for itself. It's actually inclined to just work very hard. And by working very hard, that's how it gets its bonds with other people. Because essentially it wants to do it itself. It wants to get its love for other people through its own ways and means, which means you have to do it all yourself. But this could be somebody who fulfills a role as a marriage partner, who goes to work silently, quietly, does its work, and feels pissed that this is the dharma that I have to do because of the thirst of Venus. It's not getting enough of the feeling of actually being loved and blissfully affectionate with everybody. But you do it to yourself because you chose a life where you'll work hard for 10 hours at the job that you're working in order to come home. You give your wife or your husband the money to contribute to the family, and now you sit down and you say, honey, I can't deal with anything right now because I'm so mad because I just sacrificed my whole life at work, and it's not the emotional truth that I really want to be living. And the lover says, well, okay, honey, maybe you should change your job. Maybe you should work less. And you go, no, this is what I've chosen. I've chosen this way. God or someone is pissed at me, and I have to purify myself in my job because that's the only way that I can show love. Or so you think. So you have been programmed from your early childhood to understand. And at some level, this is part of who you are. Being somebody who provides for others, whether it's for a family or whether it's, you go and do your job and then you come home, you might be somebody who doesn't feel, because you've never practiced loving yourself, you don't know what culture or music or movies or things that you would do that would enjoy, you feel awkward about it. So you might attract a lover who doesn't require you to be somebody who is very affectionate. They might be somebody who does what you do. And they come home and they plant their feet up on the couch and they lay back and they say, honey, please stop bothering me. I don't want to be coddled too much right now because I just had a hard day at work. I'm not all lovey-dovey right now. I just want to chill and watch TV and turn my brain off. And you'll be with this person. They're the person who you attracted because you thought that you wouldn't be the type who would be able to entertain them. But now they're here and their feet is up and they're not paying attention to you, and you're sitting here depressed that you are not fulfilling your role as somebody who's serving somebody from a place of affection and love. And it's either they don't ask you for it, or in some moments they could do this, they'll toe this line for a long time, and then they'll just start to tell you, honey, I'm depressed. I don't think that we live a very emotionally rich life. And you look at them and you say, but you don't allow me to. And they say, I know, and I'm sorry. I don't understand what's going on here. And you feel like you have failed. Either you're going to fail by attracting a lover who doesn't ask for it, or what would be better is that if you'll find a lover who does ask for it, but you'll still feel like you're failing. You'll still feel like, I don't know how to entertain, I don't know what I love, and let's do whatever you want to do, baby. And then they say, right, okay, I'm basically like making love to myself because you are just a chameleon, a blank slate who's just going to do whatever I say. You're a yes man, and you start to think, maybe my partner would love me if I was someone who's actually interesting. Who looks for ways to be stimulating and fun and exciting outside of my loyalty and intense passion and devotion. And the partner says, great, I've got all this intense passion and loyalty and devotion coming from this person, but it's just basically, it becomes parasitic. Like, you need me. And maybe that you might think that that's something to start a relationship on. This person is definitely the person who would need me, or I'm somebody who needs them. Maybe your partner thinks, oh, this person needs me, so they'll never leave me, right? And then the two of you get going together. You have this deep passion and need for the person, but you never take the time to meditate, to let go of the craving of fulfilling a role for somebody and just practicing santosha, not because you think that your lover is going to leave you if you don't find ways of making yourself more juicy. But, I mean, if that's how you got to get there, at least you'll endeavor to do it. You'll look for a self-help book. You'll get into tantra. You'll masturbate and discover the joys of your own body. And this is all good. These are good things. And if that leads you to the experience of trying things out with your lover, it might get you to have the experience that I want to do this with my lover, not because I want to have the role of a love soul bonding fulfilled, but because I often say it's just like drinking a glass of water. Does somebody who drinks a glass of water, do they think every time in their head, it's good to drink water. I need to consistently drink water, and therefore I'm going to drink this water. Maybe they do at the early part of their life, and some people just need to be reminded to drink water. You know, it's the meme, it's the classic meme. Have you drank water today, you dumb bitch? It's like a Facebook meme that you see all the time, because people, drinking water is good. But if you think that drinking water is good, then that's whatever. But ultimately, someone with the real realization and faith that drinking water is good, they kind of don't think about it. They just do it because they know it's an instinct to do a good thing. And this is what there's a secret metaphor here for understanding the truth of why we do yoga. We don't do it because we think it's going to get us rewards. We do it because, glug, 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 just you drink the water. You do the practice. You practice the tapas. You practice the discipline of letting go of the swirling gear work of your mind's fascination with a certain role that you could be fulfilling. Just be here now, be with what is, and essentially you have to sit with being who you are as being good enough in this moment. There's going to be times where you have to accept that you're sitting with your lover and they got their feet up on the couch and they are not going to expect you to do anything or be anything. You just have to love yourself, come from a place of conscious detachment from your desire to fulfill a certain role. And then go and read a book. Your lover's got their feet up on the couch, great. Read a book, enjoy it, watch the movie, take the ticket, enjoy your own ride for its own sake. So what's going to start to happen is that your lover, if you attracted them for this reason that you're insecure and you just want to get someone who's going to stick with you because you're not good enough to get anything else, then they are going to eventually crave some soul satisfaction. And when that's your time, you just hold on to your own consciousness. And when your lover finally kind of comes to you and wants you to make a moment where you can do this, put in santosha. Practice, write in your notebook how I would love and please my lover. When you finally do it and you finally get to have a positive experience with your lover, you and your lover will experience a water that was created by your own inner instinct. It's something that's probably very much not in your instinct to do. There's a lot of people with this combination who will just be dry people, who will just get a lover, bond with them, put the ring on it, and then never actually enjoy the juiciness of the water, Svadhisthana chakra. But ultimately, this is a pattern that is an extreme, because the moon is debilitated and Venus is starved by the moon. The ambition of Mars, of Scorpio, is ultimately the beginning of sapping this energy. Venus caters to the moon, and then the moon is sapped out by Mars. So Mars and your ambition and the desire to do more is really the beginning of this chain of starvation that's happening here. Which means that essentially you have to let go of your mind's compulsions of Mars first before you can sit in the 0 zone. And what's going to happen is you're going to develop a desire to do something, and it's going to feel like you're wasting time by just sitting here doing nothing. And really, practicing santosha for you, practicing affection and enjoyment and love for yourself for its own sake is going to feel like a waste of time to you. It's going to feel like I'm not learning how to love my lover properly. I'm selfishly wasting it greedily on my own self-indulgence. Yeah, you should really rethink that, because it's really, that's Mars saying I'm not being productive and constructive enough. It's a linear, patriarchal, capitalist world thinking that has overtaken your ability to see the nature inside of every human to balance all the chakras, including the Svadhisthana chakra. We teach in Vedic astrology, the Svadhisthana chakra, the second chakra, is upholded by Venus and the moon. And usually, when we have Scorpio moon, we use Venus to balance and complement it or compensate for it. Or if we don't have Venus, then we use the moon to compensate for it and balance it. Essentially, the moon is self-love and self-affection, learning how to entertain yourself. But the moon in Scorpio, you don't think that that's an important thing. You entertain yourself by having an active, passionate ambition that you're building towards, trying to get some big fucking project happening in the world, or building a family and spending all your time doing something that's going to give you constant activity with your family, whether it's your personal actual family that you were born with or a family that you build with another person, with a marriage partner. And you'll probably be the person who lives vicariously through your kids. Meanwhile, your kids are just trying to have the life that they want to live. But you have invested in children, and now you have to burn these kids out with your desires for what you didn't get to have in life. And all that's really going on here is that you have not experienced the water chakra. The water chakra is supposed to douse your ambitions by giving you something to live for outside of them. And if you let that continue and to just go too strongly, then you'll always be thirsty for the experience of having the true water of 1 + 1 = 3. That is the magic of the Svadhisthana chakra, where I have my enjoyment and I put it out there and it floods into a little pool. You have your enjoyment and it floods into a little pool. And together, it's like, when you have sex with you could even be someone who, for a long time, you dissociate yourself from relationships. You learn to have sexual stimulation for yourself. And even this is probably somebody, I can think of a girl being a teenager at the primal years where you should be learning to merge with people and use your puberty and your pubescent energy to connect with your sexual energy with people in a light way, but with the possibility of it being more whatever. You might be somebody who just lets go of all this and just masturbates to manga or porn or some fantasy character that you think is just this beautiful, wonderful thing. And you'll just masturbate and entertain yourself with this image without actually ever going out and seeking to manifest that reality in real life. Guys will do this too. And because the image that you want to have manifested is greater than any reality that you could experience. But that's not reality's fault. That's not the fault of humanity. That is the fault of you being caught in a delusion of wanting to fantasize about an idea that doesn't exist. And you're not doing yourself any favors by living in that fantasy, because you can only fantasize for so long. You can only sit in your house in your parents' basement and fantasize for so long. They're going to die one day. You're going to have to go out and get a job and live in a reality that is not that fantasy. And you're going to go out and do that job, and you're going to do it hard, and it's going to take all of your energy, and you're probably going to have a hard time finding someone at home, just because you are that. If you've been that person, you haven't had the energy of others sharing in your vitality. So that's what water is. It's the universe having our back, letting us float along so that we can engage our Manipura chakra on a raft that is floating on its own. If you have to carry your raft on a dry desert, you're busy carrying your raft. You're busy holding yourself together, your mind, your energy, because you're doing it all yourself. Because you've never taken the time to accept that what you are is good enough, and that other people can meet you in a realistic way with the vision you have of the life that you want to seek and the partner that you want to have. And you are good enough to do that. But you have to practice it. You have to practice being a loving and affectionate person who can enjoy themselves and other people. So I've written some notes that just give more of a general idea of where we're at here. You're craving soul togetherness, and it's a thirst for soul bonding. That's the Venus in the 9th house from the moon. Venus is, now there's another thing that I have to say that's kind of deadly here. Venus here is in Cancer, which means wherever Venus is channeling its energy through the moon. If Venus was in any other place, if Venus is in Gemini, it's still got this trine aspect, and it's still this heavy craving an image, right? But at least Venus in Gemini is being channeled through Mercury. And wherever Mercury is can sort of break the chain of starvation a little bit. Venus here is in Cancer, and it's being channeled by the Lord of Cancer, which is the moon. And the moon is debilitated, which means Venus is being channeled through the moon, and the moon is being channeled through Mars. And this is part of the reason why this Venus gets so little of the water that it craves. It doesn't know how to love self, and you don't know how to be affectionate. And this causes a moodiness at some level. Your moods are probably hard to wrangle because you've always desired another person to help you get through those moods. But you'll never find a person who will get you through those moods because you don't feel like you're good enough, because you don't learn how to deal with your moods and your emotions in your own way without the need for others. Once you do that, you go to some self-help, see a therapist, and talk to the people around you and ask them, communicate. Do you think I'm worthy of love? And they'll say yes, and you'll say, yeah, okay, I don't believe it, but thanks for telling me. But you've got to burn into your brain the capacity and the possibility for loving yourself. Then other people, do it in a patterned, predictable way through the Santosha practice. Then you will actually feel like you're worthy of love, and the next step will be to challenge yourself to take on a partner who is worthy of you, who you're not just grasping on just because of because you are lowering your bar, and they will not challenge you to love them. The great thing is to just challenge yourself to be the loving person that you want to be. Then the next level is to act very out of step with who you've always been in your childhood. And this is a real yoga that needs to be applied here. But if your moon, there are ways of getting through this. If your Venus has support from its friends, Mercury or Saturn, not being conjunct Saturn. Saturn's one planet where even if Saturn is a friend to Venus, but when Saturn is in an aspect to Venus that it helps it. Or when Venus is in the sign of Saturn, but being conjunct Saturn's not good. But if Venus is conjunct Mercury or in a trine to Mercury, or if Venus is in a trine to the great benefic Jupiter, if Venus is well placed by, if it's close to the 4th house cusp, if it has strong Shadbala, as we say in Vedic astrology, this Venus can get what it needs in the understanding of how love can be shared in this way. Not because you're somebody's slave, but because there's a genuine shared desire for you to love yourself and for another person to meet you at that love, for you to share it so that the one of your love plus the one of their love becomes the magical number 3, and where you feel the relief of actually having a stable life outside of your ambitions. And then your ambitions won't become a depressing thing. So what happens with this person is you have great ambitions and desires to do many things and to share it with a love partner who appreciates it. And the whole image of that will put the cart before the horse and mess with the whole thing. One thing I will say is that you're used to working very hard for affection and to give affection to people. And the harder you work at your job and your ambitions and etc., the more craving that you have. Because you're not, again, the moon is supposed to work smarter, not harder. This is the wisdom that water is trying to teach us. And if working hard at your job is how you've been programmed at childhood, You know, you work hard to entertain people, to show everybody that you're this good, happy, fun thing. And it makes you unable to accept when you have moods, and you are going to be somebody who has moods. And you can't let your moods stop you from loving people either. You might feel insecure that you have these moods, and you'll never break through to other lovers if you don't accept that they have to be challenged to love you for your moods. You can't be like a doormat for them and always be super happy and cater to their moods and never ask them to be with you when you are in a genuinely off mood. You have to challenge yourself to do this. And the only way you'll do it is if you challenge yourself to practice emotional honesty with yourself and to find a lover who you love for the whole way down, for the soul, and for a worthiness in yourself that matches with them. You have to be able to do this in order to get this idea of a love that is actually that role that you seek to fulfill. Because your idea of fulfilling a role as being a loving, affectionate person is an impossible role to fill unless the person shares it with you. If you can just be humble, but yet earnest and honest and dignified, then you will actually find a lover who sits with you through your moods. And then you won't feel insecure when you're sitting and you're in a dark mood and you're like, oh shit, I'm supposed to be this role as the protector of emotions for my partner. I can't be in a mood because I'm supposed to be playing this role. Your partner will support you in that role, and you can do that role. It's like a psychologist. Psychologists are not supposed to be emotional people. They're supposed to be hard therapists for their people. But guess what? Therapists get therapists. They do therapy for each other. You can be a person who has moods and is vulnerable and breaks down and still be the protector and holder of someone else when they break down. In fact, you're going to need to. If you try to be a therapist without getting therapy, how often does that go right? Now, this is me just sort of giving my general spiel on this combination. I hope it was enjoyable and fun. Now, to sort of bring it all together, I always do my own heavy, sort of deep thing, my own psychological analysis. And then at the end, I like to read erotic astrology to show what is the fun aspect of this once you understand how to use it in balance. And this is what we're reading here. It's the love-making nature of Moon in Scorpio with Venus in Cancer. In matters of the heart, almost everything you do or say is a response to what you are feeling rather than what you are thinking. Your romantic nature is sensitive but possessive from the Scorpio moon and Cancer. It's Venus in Cancer. And you're simply not interested in meaningless sexual interludes. You can be somebody who is revved up by sexuality for its own sake, but it'll feel bitter and guilt-producing if you're just having sex and not connecting it to a real soul connection. Cancer is the soul. Venus is looking to get soul bonding in this way. It's part of the difficulty of Venus in Cancer. Venus is a practical earthly planet, and it's trying to get a practical earthly consistent experience of the soul, which the soul can only come through in a partner in glimmers. You can't be your soul fully, completely meshed in another person's soul all the time, but you still can get it. You have to get it through Cancer, which is a rotating, a shifting glimmers of soul. And the Venus in Cancer can get that. It'll just be thirsty because the moon is dark for half the month. Right. You would rather wait for a partner who returns your love and devotion in equal measure than to get lost in endless sexual escapades. Typically, this person at their worst will crave trying to find the soul through physical sexual things, and they will just feel really shitty about it. You often manage to confound potential suitors with your carefully shrouded, passionate intensity. I can see that. That's lovely. In the bedroom, your sensuality and depth of emotion make even the most casual contact seem breathtakingly erotic, like a fantasy novel. And it's a beautiful thing to behold, just so long as your fantasy is not, and even your energy of enjoying your fantasy is not eclipsing the reality of the person who can't be that all the time, and who really can't, like, it's almost like people get distrusting of someone enjoying anything too much out of a person. I don't have this position, but like I get distrusting when someone loves me so much for fitting the, like, I got long hair and I'm this rock star person. And when somebody loves me for being a rock star and I perfectly fit their sexual fantasy, it's like a nice thing, but I hope you're okay with the fact that I'm not that all the time, Makes it like you're in love with the image, you're eating the menu and thinking that that's the actual food, but all you're getting is this soup, this glim menu digestion, and it's not the pictures on the menu are not the actual food, and the food will never be as good as your appetite rumbling looking at the menu. But that shouldn't stop you from ordering at the restaurant. You should order the food, experience the food for what it is. It'll never hit the idea that you have, but really that's the fault of you being attached to the idea more than it is to the food that's on the table. I hope this helps. I hope this helps you gain a little bit of clarity. My name is Dustin Cormier. This has been How to Rock Astrology. I hope you guys enjoyed this. And let me know in the comments what you think. If you thought it was good, feel free to like and subscribe and all that stuff. And I'll see you guys on the flip side with more fun astrology things. Thanks for watching.